think it's only normal that with the loss comes disappointment and
Look, sometimes the drama hits harder than any winner down the line, and tennis fans, we just witnessed exactly that kind of moment.
The cap. And it's a special moment.
What we're looking at here is seismic. Alycia Parks didn't just cross a line, she obliterated it. And now she's paying the ultimate price. The WTA just dropped the hammer with an indefinite suspension that's sending shockwaves from Melbourne all the way to Manila. Welcome to another edition where we break down the stories that matter, the moments that define careers, and the battles that happen both on and off the court. Today's episode is going to leave you speechless, because what Parks allegedly did to Eala goes beyond trash talk. This cuts straight to the heart. We're talking about family. We're talking about illness. We're talking about using someone's deepest pain as a weapon during competition. The tennis establishment has seen enough, and their response has been swift and brutal. Parks is suspended indefinitely with a hefty fine that's just the beginning of her problems. Meanwhile, something beautiful is happening on the other side of the world. While controversy rages, Eala has returned home to the Philippines for what might be the most important tournament of her young career. The Philippine Women's Open is finally here, and it's bringing world-class tennis to Manila for the very first time. We've got the complete breakdown of the draw, the Filipino fighters ready to battle on home soil, and the electric atmosphere that's building at the Rizal Memorial. This isn't just about one match or one player anymore. This is about respect, redemption, and the power of coming home when you need it most. Hit that subscribe button and buckle up, because this story has everything.
The cap. And it's a special moment.
The news hit the tennis world like a thunderbolt. And honestly, nobody saw this coming. Alycia Parks woke up this morning as a professional tennis player. She's going to bed tonight as persona non grata. The suspension came down from tennis authorities after what sources are calling the most egregious breach of sportsmanship they've encountered in recent memory. We're not talking about racket smashing or arguing with officials here. This goes much deeper, much darker, and much more personal. The incident traces back to that first-round clash at the Australian Open. You remember the match, right? The tension was thick enough to slice. Parks took the victory on the scoreboard, but what happened during and after that match has now cost her everything. According to multiple sources close to the situation, Parks crossed every conceivable line when she decided to target Eala's family during their heated exchange. But this wasn't generic trash talk about tennis ability or ranking. This was calculated cruelty aimed directly at Alex's mother, Mrs. Eala. Here's what makes this absolutely stomach-churning. Mrs. Eala is currently fighting a serious health battle. That's why she hasn't been courtside. That's why Alex has been competing without her biggest supporter in the stand. That's why there's been this underlying sadness even in Alex's victories this season. Parks allegedly weaponized that pain, turned a mother's illness into verbal ammunition, and delivered it while Alex was trying to compete on one of tennis's biggest stages. The fallout was immediate and devastating. Social media exploded with outrage. Fellow players started speaking out. The governing bodies realized they had to act decisively to protect the integrity of the sport. The punishment reflects the severity of the transgression. $2,000 might sound manageable, but the indefinite suspension, that's career-threatening. Parks can't compete. can't earn ranking points, can't earn prize money, and most importantly, can't begin to repair her reputation until tennis authorities decide she's learned her lesson. Right now, Parks' team hasn't issued any statement. No apology, no explanation, no acknowledgement of wrongdoing. That silence might be strategic, but it's not helping her cause with fans or fellow competitors who are watching this situation unfold. Now let's shift our focus to something that'll restore your faith in what this sport can be at its absolute best. Eala is home, and the timing couldn't be more perfect for her healing process. After weathering that storm in Australia and dealing with Parks' inexcusable behavior, Alex touched down in Manila to scenes that would make you emotional if you witnessed them firsthand. The Philippine Women's Open represents something that Filipino tennis fans have dreamed about for generations. Sure, we've had smaller tournaments and exhibition matches, but never has the Women's Tennis Association officially sanctioned an event on Philippine soil. The Rizal Memorial has been completely transformed for this historic moment. The courts have been resurfaced to international standards, matching the speed and bounce characteristics that players experience at major tournaments worldwide. The facility upgrades include expanded seating, professional-grade lighting systems, and broadcast capabilities that meet WTA requirements. Tournament organizers understood the significance of this moment. They knew Alex would be competing. They anticipated massive local interest, and they've delivered a venue worthy of the occasion. Early reports from players who've practiced on the courts describe them as fast but fair, rewarding aggressive play, while still allowing for strategic baseline battles. The atmosphere around the venue is unlike anything Manila has experienced for tennis. Ticket sales exceeded all projections within hours of going on sale. Local media coverage has been wall-to-wall, treating this tournament with the same attention typically reserved for major boxing matches or basketball championships. For Alex personally, this tournament represents a chance to heal in the most supportive environment possible. She's sleeping in familiar surroundings, eating food that tastes like home, hearing her native language in the crowds, and feeling the unconditional support of an entire nation. The draw has been revealed, and tennis fans, Alex's path is going to test everything she's learned as a professional. Her opening opponent is Russia's Elena Kiriva, and this matchup carries more intrigue than you might initially realize. Kiriva isn't some unknown qualifier making up the numbers. She's a legitimate threat with the game and experience to cause serious problems for anyone in this field. Let's examine what makes this opening match so fascinating and potentially dangerous for the Filipino star. Kiriva peaked at number 142 in the world rankings, which places her firmly in professional tennis territory where every player possesses weapons that can hurt you if you're not completely focused. She's collected 6 ITF titles throughout her career, proving she knows how to win tournaments and handle pressure situations. More concerning for Alex supporters, Kiriva reached the final at the WTA 125 event in Huzhou, demonstrating that she elevates her game specifically at this level of competition. She's not intimidated by the bright lights or higher stakes that come with WTA events. But here's the detail that makes this first-round matchup absolutely compelling. These two have history, and it's not favorable history for Alex. Back in 2020 at the W15 Melilla tournament in Spain, Kiriva defeated a much younger Eala in straight sets. That was amateur Alex, junior Alex, learning the ropes Alex. But Kiriva still has that psychological edge of knowing she's beaten the Filipino star before. She understands Alex's tendencies, her preferred playing patterns, her strengths and potential weaknesses. Kiriva's game style presents specific challenges that could exploit areas where Alex has sometimes struggled. She's a relentless baseline grinder who extends rallies, forces opponents to generate their own pace, and waits patiently for errors. Against a player carrying emotional baggage from recent events and enormous pressure from home expectations, that grinding style can be incredibly effective. Kiriva will try to slow down the pace, disrupt Alex's rhythm, and turn this into a war of attrition where mental toughness becomes the deciding factor. However, the Eala of 2026 is a completely different player than the one Kiriva defeated 6 years ago. This version of Alex has competed at Grand Slam level, has faced top 50 players, has learned how to handle pressure situations, and possesses weapons that her younger self was still developing. Her left-handed forehand has become a genuine weapon, consistently clocking higher pairs and carrying more topspin than it did during her junior days. Her serve has improved dramatically, both in terms of pace and placement precision. Most importantly, her tactical understanding of how to construct points and manage matches has evolved enormously through her professional experience. The crowd factor cannot be underestimated in this matchup. Kareva will be walking into a stadium filled with thousands of fans desperately wanting Alex to succeed, creating an atmosphere that can either energize the home favorite or add crushing pressure if things start going poorly. Managing that emotional energy and channeling it productively will be crucial for Alex's success. If she can harness that support and use it to elevate her intensity level without letting it make her tight or over-eager, the crowd becomes a significant advantage. Our prediction is that this match goes 3 sets, with Alex ultimately prevailing through superior firepower and home support, but only after Kareva makes her work extremely hard for the victory. This won't be a comfortable cruise into the second round. While Alex commands most of the attention as the tournament's biggest star, the Philippine Women's Open is showcasing that Filipino tennis talent runs much deeper than one exceptional player. The performances we're seeing from other Filipino competitors prove that this country is developing into a legitimate tennis nation with depth and quality throughout its player development system. Steffi Aludo has already made history before the main draw even began, and her achievement deserves serious recognition. At just 17 years old, representing Agusan del Sur and currently studying at Cebu College in Malabon, Steffi became the first Filipino player ever to win a WTA-sanctioned match on Philippine soil. Her qualifying victory over fellow Filipina Angelina Alcala wasn't just historic, it was dominant. The 6-1 6-love scoreline tells only part of the story. Eyewitness reports describe a performance where Aludo controlled every aspect of the match from the opening point. She dictated rallies with aggressive ground strokes, served with confidence beyond her years, and never allowed Alcala to establish any rhythm or momentum. That second set bagel was particularly impressive, showing mental toughness and focus that many players twice her age struggle to maintain. Aludo opened the match with a forehand winner down the line and closed it out with an identical shot, displaying both power and composure under pressure. Her reward is a qualifying matchup against Japan's Sakura Hosogi, an experienced player who won't be intimidated by the occasion or the crowd support. If Aludo can maintain this level of play and advance through qualifying, she'll join Alex in the main draw, giving Filipino fans 2 legitimate hometown heroes to support throughout the tournament. The other Filipino players in the main draw face challenging opening assignments, but each matchup presents opportunities for breakthrough performances that could announce these players on the international stage. Elizabeth Abarca draws what might be the toughest assignment of any Filipino competitor when she faces Japan's Mai Hontama in the first round. Hontama brings legitimate tour-level experience, having competed in the main draw of the Australian Open and other significant tournaments. She plays a flat, aggressive style that puts immediate pressure on opponents and doesn't allow for tentative or defensive tennis. Abarca will need to serve at her absolute best and find ways to disrupt Hontama's preferred rhythm if she wants to stay competitive. This represents a classic David versus Goliath scenario where the underdog needs everything to go perfectly while hoping the favorite has an off day. Kyan Imina faces Russia's Tatiana Prosarovo in another intriguing first-round matchup between a rising Filipino talent and an established international competitor. Prosarovo brings 7 ITF titles and a career-high ranking of 140 to this encounter, along with the experience that comes from competing regularly at this level. At 22 years old, she's entering her prime competitive years and won't be fazed by the hostile crowd or the significance of the occasion. Imina will need to produce the performance of her career to advance, but playing at home has a way of inspiring players to exceed their normal capabilities. The energy from the crowd, the familiarity of the environment, and the motivation of representing her country could combine to elevate Imina's game to new heights. Tennis history is filled with examples of home players rising to occasions exactly like this one. Tini Midis gets a Southeast Asian derby when she faces Thailand's Mananchaya Sawankayo, creating a matchup that should produce entertaining tennis between two players familiar with similar playing conditions and styles. Sawankayo arrives in Manila with excellent recent form, having reached the final of the WTA 125 event in Mumbai, which proves she's playing some of the best tennis of her career right now. She understands Asian playing conditions, humid weather, and the tactical adjustments necessary to succeed in this environment. This experience edge could prove crucial in what should be a closely contested match between two evenly matched competitors. Midis will be the underdog based on rankings and recent results, but she's fighting for her country on home soil, which can provide motivation that transcends normal form consideration. The winner of this match will likely face a very winnable second-round opportunity, adding extra stakes to what's already a pressure-filled situation. Additionally, Lorraine Jallarina continues fighting in qualifying rounds, battling Thailand's Pintarn Plipiek for a chance to join her compatriots in the main draw. Every Filipino tennis fan should be supporting Lorraine's efforts to earn that main draw berth and give the home nation another representative in the tournament proper. Step back and consider the broader narrative playing out this week, because it perfectly captures both the beautiful and ugly sides of professional sports. On one hand, we have the Alycia Parks situation, which represents everything wrong with competitive athletics when winning becomes more important than basic human decency and respect. Parks's alleged comments about Alycia's sick mother demonstrate how competition can bring out the absolute worst in people when they lose perspective about what really matters in life. The fact that someone would weaponize a family member's illness for psychological warfare during a tennis match reveals a level of cruelty that has no place in sport or anywhere else. Parks's indefinite suspension sends a clear message that tennis authorities won't tolerate this kind of behavior, regardless of a player's ranking or commercial value. Some boundaries cannot be crossed without severe consequences, and targeting an opponent's family member's health crisis clearly falls into that category. The silence from Parks's team suggests they understand the indefensible nature of her actions and are struggling to formulate any response that doesn't make the situation worse. Meanwhile, here in Manila, we're witnessing the inspiring side of sports that reminds us why we fell in love with competition in the first place. Eala returning home to compete in front of her own people while dealing with family health issues and the emotional trauma of Parks's verbal assault represents resilience and grace under pressure. The tournament itself symbolizes progress and opportunity, bringing world-class tennis to a nation that has supported the sport passionately despite rarely having opportunities to host events of this caliber. Young players like Steffi Aludo making their WTA debuts and immediately making history demonstrates the power of representation and home field advantage. When young Filipino tennis players see people who look like them competing successfully at the international level, it expands their perception of what's possible for their own careers. The comprehensive coverage surrounding this tournament extends far beyond match results and statistical analysis. Photographers are documenting not just the action on court, but the cultural significance of the event, capturing images of excited crowds, young fans getting autographs, and the general celebration of tennis that's taking place throughout Metro Manila. Journalists are exploring the economic impact of hosting a WTA event, interviewing local tennis coaches about increased interest in their programs, and examining how Eala's success has inspired a new generation of Filipino tennis players. This kind of storytelling helps grow sports beyond their core audiences by connecting athletic achievement to broader themes of national pride, cultural representation, and individual inspiration. Weather conditions in Manila during this time of year add another layer of complexity to an already challenging competitive environment. The combination of heat and humidity affects not just player comfort, but actual ball performance and strategic consideration. Humid air makes tennis balls heavier and slower, reducing the effectiveness of power-based games while favoring players who excel at constructing points and moving opponents around the court. Players must manage their hydration carefully to avoid cramping or heat exhaustion during longer matches. The sun's position and intensity can create visibility challenges for serving and overhead shots, requiring players to adjust their tactics based on which end of the court they're playing from. These environmental factors can actually level the playing field somewhat between higher and lower-ranked players as superior fitness and tactical adaptation become more important than pure tennis technique. For Eala, having grown up in this climate provides some advantage, but her extensive training in Spain has also exposed her to a wide variety of weather conditions and playing environments. The mental and emotional comfort of being home, eating familiar food, sleeping in her own bed, and being surrounded by her native language and culture could prove more important than any technical considerations about court conditions or weather patterns. Prize money distribution at WTA 125 events makes every victory meaningful for players ranked outside the top 100. The tournament winner typically earns $15,000 to $20,000, while even first-round victories provide several $1,000s that can fund future training and tournament travel. For many competitors, this represents a significant portion of their annual income and can determine whether they can afford to continue their professional careers. The financial pressure adds another psychological element to every match, as players aren't just competing for ranking points and recognition but for their economic survival in an expensive sport. Professional tennis requires enormous financial investment in coaching, travel, accommodation, equipment, and physical therapy, costs that add up quickly for players without significant sponsorship deals. Many talented players are forced to retire not because they lack tennis ability, but because they cannot sustain the financial burden of competing on the professional tours. This economic reality makes success at events like the Philippine Women's Open crucial for career sustainability and explains why players celebrate victories with such intense emotion. The mental resilience required to maintain a professional tennis career extends far beyond what most fans realize. The constant travel, pressure to perform, financial stress, physical demands, and isolation of life on the road create enormous psychological challenges that end many promising careers prematurely. Sports psychology has become increasingly important in modern tennis as players and coaches recognize that mental toughness often separates successful professionals from talented players who never reach their potential. For Alycia, managing the psychological aspects of this tournament will be just as important as her physical preparation and tactical game planning. The external pressure of home expectations, media attention, and the lingering emotional effects of the Parks incident could either inspire her to career-best performances or create mental obstacles that prevent her from playing her natural game. Developing effective coping strategies, maintaining perspective about what she can and cannot control, and staying focused on process rather than results will determine whether she can handle this pressure successfully. Meditation, visualization, breathing exercises, and pre-match routines can help athletes center their minds and prepare mentally for competition. The best players in the world aren't necessarily always the most physically talented, but they consistently excel at managing their mental games under pressure situations. As the main draw approaches, anticipation throughout Metro Manila continues building to fever-pitch levels. Newspaper sports sections feature wall-to-wall coverage of the tournament, radio shows analyze matchups and make predictions, and social media platforms overflow with messages of support for Filipino competitors. Alycia's social media following has surged as casual sports fans become invested in her story and the broader narrative of the tournament. The intersection of sports, national pride, and cultural representation creates powerful emotional connections that transcend individual athletic competitions. This tournament has evolved into a cultural event that represents possibility, progress, and the power of seeing yourself reflected on international stages. It becomes about communities coming together around shared hope and dreams, young people envisioning futures they didn't know existed, and a nation celebrating its place in the global tennis community. Alycia stands at the center of this moment, carrying enormous expectations but also supported by an ocean of goodwill and national pride. She's been preparing for this opportunity her entire career, not specifically for this tournament, but for the chance to represent her country at the highest levels and justify all the sacrifices made by her family and support team. We'll be providing comprehensive coverage of every significant development at the Philippine Women's Open, tracking not just Alycia's progress, but the performances of all Filipino competitors and the broader story of how this tournament impacts Philippine tennis. The contrast between the Parks controversy and this celebration of tennis at its best provides a perfect example of sports' power to bring out both the worst and best in human nature. What's your take on the Alycia Parks suspension? Was the punishment appropriate for her alleged actions, or should tennis authorities have responded differently? How do you think Eala will handle the pressure of competing at home while dealing with family health concerns and the emotional aftermath of that Australian Open incident? Share your predictions for her opening match against Eala and let us know which other Filipino players you think have the best chances of advancing deep into this historic tournament. If this comprehensive breakdown enhanced your understanding of these developing stories, please support our continued coverage by engaging with this content and sharing it with other tennis enthusiasts. Subscribe to stay updated on all the latest developments from Manila and the ongoing fallout from the Park situation. Keep following along as we document what promises to be a week that could reshape careers and create memories that last lifetimes. Until next time, keep supporting great tennis and the values that make this sport special.